was so cold by the door. But I had this outfit planned and then it just went out the window. I can't wait for spring, huh? So this book is called Young Americans. It just came out with Beminar. Ghazal is here, so I owe her a lot. I'm just going to begin from the beginning and read a little bit of it. Alright. Oh yeah, and if y'all want to take pictures of me, that'd be great, because I forgot to do that for like the last week. Yeah. Anyway. Young Americans. The après-midi of our brotherhood is effortless. How did you put it before? This becoming's like confetti cutting. Weren't we celebratory and vicious? At times vicious and blithe? Weren't we reckless and massive? I was sure we were brothers when we rang with certain grief, and were sisters when it seemed the source of it was from our insides. We were sisters when any fortune for us precipitated scorn. We were brothers when we earned, and sisters obscenely seeking after. We spoke quietly in the grove that we had little time, and so must give testimony. And you said, do not forgive, truly. You cannot forgive in the name of those betrayed here. And even our names, fastened together by vulgarity and fable, even you cannot forgive in my name, even when they called out Jackqueline twice or 4 times. This meritocracy keeps me in the attention of great trusts, since as hierophants, they believe in a kingdom without limit. So each day I go with the others to the dark boundary of the good. It began when I remembered that as teens we sold our blood. Its plasma had value, even ours. Unless we were underweight, anemic, or our identification was suspect, they gave us the red blood cells back. And we take our fees and wait for weeks, often without sleep, until our plasma had replenished itself inside and we could sell our blood again. Later in the forges, it was told we raised the one true thing in a world of untrue things, so endowed. Came for history and passed through sapped utopias, read banished and was channeled by their order, kept the word destroyer embroidered there. We say there is a bouquet of tendencies being partial but indeterminate. We say, well, who is worth losing? We say the men are always getting better. Against thirst and much inglorious. No one is unaware of what takes place here. It has no name as yet. We've concocted a language with no word for exit or any essential force. In this language, alliances can be exchanged at value for conviction as conviction. I remember how we cast our own names down as egress, and they watched, with no pity for bathers in the desert. Our empathy served only us, this distilled, intoxicating thing. The stages lay slip of cargo crane in the Pacific. What is actual grace? This extraction. How often events congeal into image with no social aggression. Though all this should be transfigured as contact and endurance, I'll continue to speak of hunger and brevity, those notions that stayed when others were lost, until they too take their grease and walk. As if something broke through the academic sadness, mastering due as weak messianic things, germane and lowly and partisan, words with knobby meanings leaving now forever separate these little Goethes and their parochial ethos, the ruse of which has been clarified through the non-existence of love in acts. In the twilight of the sequence, I'm speaking to the anarchists, ever rehearsing the discipline of their bodies in collective and spiritual enunciations. They sing barricades in the morning and have not grown from this worship. of danger, importance, secrecy. I'm asking, what is it you mean by total freedom? I don't know yet what I'm willing to do for it. I don't know what will happen now. Some women spit blood, pick bone, grow cautious. I commence to make that which was not avenged apparent. You will say perhaps that it is not worth your getting involved in. In that case, I can say the same. I do have my underground. I know this too is poetry, but it will not be lacunary in judgment. Issue one false night, a substrate, and cultivate a sensitivity to barrage. Pardon the trivial and mend weak light by comfort in decreasing, by casuistry. Let it pass in bursts like bursts of music until there is some quiet after. But don't humiliate truth by soaking it in the conspicuous beauty of all these dying materials. I had to tell myself that. The central image is the white Corolla, with a matte black left side panel, Wallace's. At night we drive through quiet streets, each with a pack of artillery shells, mortars, and light them from the car seat, tossing them up into the street behind us, and watch them falling, then bouncing, sometimes twice. Just at eye level they detonate, forcing peels of color and heat, so final. And one time Lee Parrott hit the rim of the window twice before his exploded, burning the upholstery, his backside. I remember him saying, "Can someone just give me a fucking cigarette?" And we could spend whole nights driving through the open, no seams to cut against, just for the feeling of taking these explosives to the stupid stillness of everything. And how this game we played with the nights we lived through was a sign, the relevancy of which continues to descend on me. Because in those days, our boys, the boys that were a part of me, of my life, were the ones who went to slaughter and be slaughtered, the smallest, most forgettable generation of us. Or who came back from the war like Paul Hidalgo and drove his red Chevy truck one too many times into the cane, and was chased by state troopers and dogs barefoot through it, his name tattooed across his back. And because nothing else took place, besides being made for the war, or being broken by it later, or being made for someone who's made for the war or who comes back, mangled by it later, it's as if the lengths we went to make anything else happen conditioned us to fear little more than death, and death too seemed worth that, or at least was common enough. There was an incubation. After the storm I strayed, grace favored over decay. But those dreams of drowning blue-lipped in the flooded street on Dauphine or Saint-Philippe, I was always with a grip of dikes in the subtropic wedding of night. That was Ursuline where the nuns lived. I was a tatter in a boat. Please, not now, I'm building a prayer to live in, against this white portability. To be more than a gamine in exile identified with Platonic concepts, predicated on mistaken blessedness. Something indecent about this story of young Americans set to burning in a field of sleeping cows. We cradle shotguns near the dredging as light fails to be tense and unconfessing. We engage with the reality it produces in order to name. Thank you.